So have you ever seen these Apple commercials that are apparently entirely shot on iPhone? But how though? It looks so good. It looks so professional and clean. The colors look nice. Well, that's great because I happen to have the same camera right here in my pocket. So let's switch to that and bam, cinematic masterpiece. How does it look? Maybe I just need some sound effects to make it more epic. Boom. Maybe some color grading. You know, like, does it look amazing? I mean, honestly, it does actually look pretty good considering that this is just coming out of a phone, but I'm not winning any Oscars for this. So let's go and ask somebody that does know a thing or two about winning Oscars.
Claudio Miranda, Life of Pi.
Claudio Miranda, the Academy Award-winning cinematographer that has shot many films that we all have seen and love. He shot one of my favorite films in recent years, Top Gun Maverick. I mean, come on, a lot of us are probably skeptical when we heard that they were going to remake Top Gun, but oh my God, you saw it in theaters. Jeez.
What the hell? Good morning, aviators.
Right now, he's actually doing a shoot entirely on iPhone, so let's pay him a visit and ask him some super important questions, such as the Oscar. Is that kind of like the ultimate flex in Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah, someone dropped it the other day, and I'm trying to get it repaired, you know?
Oh, no.
No one's fessing up to it, but I know it's like it's a little wobbly on its thing.
I've got an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I go around and film with my friends. How come when I shoot, it doesn't look like when you shoot it?
People don't think about cleaning the lens half the time, so I think that's what I always tell my family, you know. Now they're really good at it. I have experience working with cameras that are, you know, not quite film cameras, and that seemed to look good. Benjamin Button was on a very limited camera, and I think once you understand the lane, you know, where the highlights go raw, what happens when highlights going to bloom, do you want that, do you not want that, you know, and you understand the camera fully, then I think from then you can make choices that are going to make a good looking image.
Could you tell us why you're on a ladder?
Oh, we're going to drop the phone. The shot is we're going to go up, he's going to tape it up, and the tape's going to wobble, and then it's going to fall down to the floor.
Did it feel wrong dropping the camera?
No.
It's all for the story.
It's all for the story. All right, now we're just setting up for the shot, which is a little pushing on the girl on the table right here. So we have the light in there, have a little bit of mood.
Are you pretty comfortable shooting on the iPhone and the log?
It's much better than the old system, yes. Thank God we have log.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to make your own choices versus other people's choices.
Right. What are some of the limitations you're kind of seeing working with a small sensor out of a phone opposed to what you're usually working on?
Usually I have 13 lenses, and now I have 3.
Right, yeah. Do you think you're going to be using all 3?
We'll probably use all 3 in different states. The Max has the 120, and then the Phone Pro has the 77. Fixed iris, so we're 1.8. It's got to make that work, which is a little different than normal.
You're making it work.
Yeah,
like,
you just have to kind of control it a little bit. Yeah.
You come from lighting.
I come from lighting.
Do you think that your experience as a gaffer has a huge impact on how you work today as a cinematographer?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Very opinion about lighting.
If someone's new to lighting, usually it starts off as like, oh, I need to make sure I have more light. And then once you get a little bit further down the path, it's a little bit more like, actually, I need more shadows.
Yeah, you could do a lot with negative, right? Like even outside, like a little negative black to start subtracting light. You can work in that way, and it's sometimes more efficient.
You were the gaffer on Fight Club. That's incredible. Trainers, they say a lot of times actors will come in and they'll be like, what body do you want? And they'll always say, Brad Pitt Fight Club.
Oh, he was pretty ripped then, yeah.
Definitely shredded, but also I know lighting has something to do with that.
You know, it was hard light a lot of times. We weren't just poofing it out, so it definitely kind of showed.
I'm assuming you kind of went with kind of a harsher look on that just to give it that kind of ruggedy.
Yeah, that kind of basement feel, yeah. I mean, it was Jeff Corner was the DP. I had some silly ideas and they paid attention to some of them. And a joke that I had called Budget Busters. We had lights that were just, it's a bulb, it's like a thing you buy at Home Depot, the little clip-on lamp with the little shade. And we just kind of like, I just said, hey, can we use these and just clip them anywhere? And there were lights, and they were, you know, like $2 lights. They just had a dozen of them. We just clip them out and we light a lot of Fight Club, just like that. As a gaffer, you could come up with all these ideas, but you're not the final say. So it's different when you go from like gaffer to DP, because when an idea now that's sticks. It's a different thing. Like you could just say, hey, let's put, you know, peanut globe, let's put a pickle light, whatever, to do whatever you want to do as a gaffer, and you can kind of throw ideas in that kind of creative way, and some stick, some don't.
I kind of want to start from the beginning and hear how you got involved in all this.
And I had like a little job as a stage manager, which I got through a friend. And then I was kind of helping people on set as an electrician. You know, I'd kind of up and they'd say, hey, you want to work as an electrician? Help me out, we need another guy. And I would help out, and then they liked me, and then the crews liked me, and they took me with them. And I liked all the jobs. I mean, I was a happy electrician, I was a happy best boy. I was like, wow, this is just cool. My gaffer was just passed out on cocaine on the floor of the bathroom, so I was always covering him. With that DP, he said, you're around. He's never around. I'll just hire you. So I would like to thank my career to drugs, you know.
Did the director ask, where's the gaffer?
I just was covering. I said, you just missed him like a couple seconds ago. He was just here, but I knew he was just asleep and gone. You know, I've been working with Josh on this one, who's great. He's done some movies. He's working with me on Formula One.
As a gaffer, I'm responsible for lighting. The director of photography and the director come up with a vision, what they want it to look like, what the colors want to be like, what the mood wants to feel like, and then my job is to bring the technical pieces to the set to help them achieve that.
A lot of cinematographers come from lighting. Why do you think that is?
I think it just makes sense. It's a natural progression. As a director of photography, they're responsible for the image that we're all going to see, and lighting is a huge part of that image. So if you have a background and understanding of what light does and how it affects the camera, how it affects the subjects.
What are your thoughts on film school?
I mean, I didn't go, and I actually was a pretty terrible student. You know, one time I had a 1.0 grade average, so it was pretty bad. I was just playing. I was at the beach. I was hooky. I was terrible. I went, you know, missed 60 straight days of school. I mean, nowadays with cameras are so simple, you know, versus when I was starting, it was film and processing, and it was a lot more of a deal. Now people could just pick up phones and anything, and so many tools that everyone could do, and they're not expensive like they used to be. DPs that I worked with in the past, and I learned so much from them. Harris Savitas, who passed away, he just kind of taught me about like letting things kind of be up in lighting. Like, don't be too precious.
I've heard this crazy story about you lighting how many candles in Life of Pi?
You know, Hank said, I want candles every, like, you know, 2 feet in this pool that was almost a football field by a football field. And I go, well, that's a lot of candles. And I just started, you know, calculating. I said, we probably should have like 120,000 candles. So yeah, we had 2,000 people lighting it.
120,000 candles and 2,000 people lighting.
Well, it was like a whole, like, everyone was I was lighting them. Everyone was like, it's like one of those moments you kind of look at the end and be like, wow, we did it. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty beautiful scene, I think.
Pretty much all practicals.
I like practicals. I'm not really a great faux lighter. I'll do it every now and then, but I'm kind of reluctant. I like things to kind of do their own homework. You know, I work with our department of production designers, and we figure out where windows are going, where lamps are going.
My name is Young. Last name Lee. I'm a production designer for this project. My job is like make sure the frame is good. Whatever you see from the frame, all the art stuff, landscape, furniture, anything you can see on the screen, I need to take care of it. Lighting is important for art, so usually I discuss with DP from beginning, like what is the lighting concept of the project and story.
You're taking into consider aspect ratio too.
Yeah. So usually, and also the lens. When I go to scouting, I usually ask DP what kind of lens and the ratio. So I put my Artemis camera, same type of lens size, so I can see our frame.
So you have to kind of think like the cinematographer as well, so that you can design the space to work well for the frame.
Yeah, it's kind of collaboration because I also DP also think about art, you know, like what kind of color he wants and then what texture he wants. We discuss pretty much everything.
So lighting and production design, I would actually argue that they're both more important than the camera that you're actually shooting on. I mean, when I was building out this space, I spent maybe 5 seconds picking out which camera I'm gonna use, and I spent way more time figuring out what I want in the space that's in this shot right here and lighting. I do have a whole guide on how I built out the set, by the way, in case you're interested. But back to production design, watching Young work was incredible. She took this normal looking house and completely converted it in one day with her crew. One day.
Yeah, that's the production designer's job, I think. The reason people feel it's completely different is because of wallpaper. Because the wallpaper really changed the entire atmosphere. And I changed the tile from the kitchen. The director doesn't want to look like a very normal Christmas decoration house. And she said it's a girl's perspective. So I made a little bit more like a girl's imagination of Christmas decoration. Also, I talk to costume a lot because it really matters for art as well. So it's all about collaboration work.
Do you work with a lot of people that are not easy, but you kind of have to because of the talent that they provide?
Oh, no. I don't work with not easy people. You know, before I do a job, I'll ask. If a couple of people I trust go like, great, I'll put that on the table, right? But if they're like,
he's a prick.
He's a prick, he yells at people, he doesn't know what he's doing. Or he does know what he's doing, but he's a prick, you know, you just don't.
Benjamin Button, like that kind of got the ball rolling and you were busy.
Fincher saw Joe Kosinski and brought him into his company at the time. Fincher recommended me to Joe, and then Joe and I did some commercials together, and then we thought we would do Tron together. So that was my first job with Joe.
Top Gun, what was that experience like?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I used to gaff for Tony Scott, right? So it was a little bit like slightly emotional to do this movie as well. You want to do honor to it. And, you know, I talked to Jeffrey Kimball, who was the original DP of the movie as well, and what issues he had in making the movie. And then I talked to Sony about designing a camera that could help us capture some stuff inside, and they were very helpful.
Do you enjoy taking equipment and making it do things that it wasn't capable of before?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing that on an F1. We have a camera that's a little bit of a surprise. Yeah, so we made something new there that Sony helped out with.
That's the next movie I'm excited to go to the theaters for.
We had to make it smaller and faster and be able to pan.
You definitely seem to like shooting practically. A lot of Top Gun was very practical, but you're also familiar with working with a heavy VFX. How do you like working between the two?
Our goal is to shoot it as real as possible. I mean, I feel like if Top Gun was shot on a gimbal, I think people would be sad, you know, and I would be sad, you know. But, you know, you get the adrenaline of just the actors and emotions actually doing the G's and the whole thing and the lighting spinning around and the realistic and the non-perfectness.
A big part of the impact that I felt in the theaters, the rawness that you could feel. I mean, you see the jets flying by and then you're in the cockpit, the sound design, the rumble of the engine, and just,
and you feel like, you know, when you first saw the first trailer for Top Gun, there was a moment where you've seen everyone, like, you know, when you're on a gimbal, they all do the back, but they never do the drop, right? So then when you see Tom do the back, and then you see him do the drop at the end of the carrier, then you're connected, you know, because that's real things that are happening.
Claudio made us
30 minutes ahead.
I love being ahead of schedule.
It is pretty impressive looking at the monitor and just seeing the amount of detail in there, but also just like seeing the highlights outside the window and then still getting the detail in the shadows.
Yeah, it's been holding. I think the Blackmagic app really kind of helps you like lock in your settings you want.
Yeah.
And be able to control the light. So.
It's your first time pulling focus on an iPhone?
Yeah. We've shot with them before, but this is the first time we've actually pulled focus.
Now you may be wondering, how are we manually pulling focus on an iPhone wirelessly? Well, Tilta and Blackmagic have been at work to making it so that the wireless hand unit that we would usually use from Tilta is now wirelessly compatible with the Blackmagic app.
Hit a button and it clicks in, you're pulling focus.
focus, zoom, and the round stuff.
I saw that you have some labels that you put on your wheel. Did someone make those, or is
They're map pointers. They're stickers that you would buy to put on a map. They come in a sheet and you just peel them off and put them on your handset.
Is there any digital markers that you can place in?
There are.
For vibrations?
Yeah, it has all of that. For me, it's quicker to have those big visible markers.
How was being an AC on Top Gun?
It was experience of a lifetime. 2 F-18s with 6 Sony Venices in each one that we would set up.
I see all these videos online of these jets just blasting past the crew.
Just right over our heads. The speed of it, moving 500 miles an hour, just amazing to watch.
Now, checking out some of the behind the scenes from Apple, you'll notice that there's all these different accessories attached onto the phone, and in the past it's been pretty tricky and cumbersome to rig out something as small as a phone. But what Claudio's been using on this shoot is a new system from Tilta. It's called the Chrono system. Basically, it's a phone case, but with all these different attachment points. It also has power pass through the whole case. So basically, you could attach a battery handle and it powers all the accessories throughout the case, as well as top off your phone battery. This is your first full-on shoot that you've done completely on an iPhone. Did you kind of see it partially as a challenge?
Yeah, we're definitely learning a lot on this shoot. There's always something interesting about being limited in certain ways and then seeing how to use that to your advantages, you know?
When you go, oh, I'm gonna shoot a project with my crew on a phone, there's instantly a few issues that come up, like, is the battery gonna die on us? Are we gonna run out of media? How is the art department gonna view the footage? What you have right now, it feels like a solution to those problems in a way.
Right, you can definitely record externally, HDMI, so everyone else can see the footage of what you're shooting, which is all kind of critical because it's, the director wants to see what you're shooting and may want to comment. What's nice also, you have the ability to put neutral densities on here and filters and use our 24 frames and 180 filmic language versus going to like high shutter angles that make it look video-y and kind of, so these are the ways that we can just kind of make it more filmic.
Definitely. I mean, I guess one of the challenges is that f1.8 locked. It's not just the prime lens, but the iris is also locked.
They're all locked. And then you go to the longer lens and it's a 2.8, right? So they're all different stops. So it's great that you can kind of take the NDs and just kind of change them out. And you don't have to change your ISO or your shutter angle.
When it comes to your ISO or ASA, I know that you were trying to live within a certain range.
I was very happy with 200 and I'm very happy with 400 and mildly happy with 500.
And then in terms of the app that you're using,
The Blackmagic app, they've worked close to get together with Tilta to make it all communicate, and it communicates well.
user interface that you're more comfortable and familiar with.
I like that it's cleaner. Yeah, it's a nice and clean interface. And you could see all your settings, you know, you could see your ASA you're shooting at, you can see your color balance, and you could change it, you could lock it. And it's cool that the whole thing has like power actually running through it, which is kind of an interesting thing. Put the fan on and you can put lights on, all the accessories, and it's all powered through the battery through the whole cage.
The first time I really started using a Tilta cage was on the Alexa Mini, just because you just have that power distribution happen from just one V mount, and then all the accessories get powered off that. And it's cool to kind of see that same theory in a way come into the phone.
This fan just comes on and off, so it's easy. So if you want to get somewhere, it's just, I mean, that's pretty simple, right? And that's powered.
And I know there's like other plug-in things like a light up top, which you would probably not use unless it's maybe for like an eye light or something.
Yeah, I mean, mostly I use, natural light, so it's a little different, but everything's different. Like sometimes you may want a theme that does have an eye light on top, so it's not, I wouldn't say it's out of the question. It's not like I haven't used an eye light before.
Right.
You may want to get a ping in the eye, and this just gives you just enough.
There's this debate where it's like, gear doesn't matter, and then there's people that say gear does matter. I've kind of been on the boat of gear does matter, but not nearly as much as the people behind the camera.
Yeah, I mean, choices matter probably is the biggest thing, right?
I like that. Choices matter. That should be a t-shirt.
So I think beyond equipment, I think it's just personal taste is actually more important than the medium you're shooting at.
Adam Ansel's once have a quote I really love a lot, is that the key component of the camera is the 12 inches behind the camera, not the gear. It's not the camera itself. It's more about like how you think about things. Definitely using iPhone or this kind of device comes with constraints, but I think so only you know about how to play around these constraints, you can finally embrace the freedom. Free your mind and be creative, be fearless.
Do you have any advice for up-and-coming filmmakers?
Well, do less drugs than anyone around you, maybe. That's how I got where I was. And personally, I was just kind of around the work I wanted to do. And just be confident in yourself. And it kind of shows. And if people see confidence in yourself, they feel like they want to be around you. And just be prepared. I mean, Fincher, he said, hey, I want you to go look at this company with me. And he wouldn't tell me what we were looking for. So I took it upon myself to learn what's the newest thing and what that company has. And I came way prepared for that meeting. I didn't want to go in there and hey, let's all just discover it the first time. I wanted to have a clear understanding. So when I came in the meeting, I got yeah, I know that thing. Do your homework and find your own ways. I do a lot of 3D work. For Formula One, all the cameras I was working with, Mercedes, they were sending me step files and I was working with those step files and we'd exchange back and forth. The new car has a bigger mirror and I go oh, that affects this angle here. And now you got to take this over 2 more centimeters. Because those cameras are rigged and locked. I just find it crazy where we are sometimes. You're on a launch pad in Cape Canaveral. You're on an aircraft carrier. You just never really imagining these things that you would be as a kid growing up. Sometimes I do reflect on that, how does my younger self look at my older self, and I didn't really think I'd be having any job really. I thought it'd be just kind of like a bum basically.
Your life arc has really taken a big turn.
Yeah, it wasn't really expected at all.